Welcome back, everyone. Today, we're going to be diving into something you might not expect. It's all about the future of those good old-fashioned engines, internal combustion engines. And get this, we're focusing on China.
Yeah, China.
You got it.
Yeah.
See, we've got the stack of articles here, and they're saying it's not as simple as everyone going electric over there. It's way more complicated.
Right. A lot of folks think China's just totally jumped on board the EV train, but these articles show that's not quite the full picture. They might be playing a bit of a different game, keeping their options open.
Exactly. And that's what we want to uncover in this deep dive. What's China really up to, and what does it mean for the rest of the world's car industry?
Big questions.
For sure. Well, let's kick things off with some news that caught my eye. Nissan, the Japanese company, they're going to be getting engines and gearboxes, the parts that make the car go, from a venture, a partnership between Renault, that's a French company, and Geely, a Chinese company.
An interesting combo.
You think so? It's
Yeah.
not the first pairing that comes to mind, right?
It is unexpected. Yeah, but when you consider Geely's been making some big moves lately, it starts to make sense. They scooped up Volvo. They've got Lotus now. Clearly, they're thinking globally.
Global domination.
Maybe. But by partnering with Renault and basically tapping into Nissan's massive production system, they're cementing themselves in the ICE market. That's internal combustion engine for anyone who's new here.
The heart of a gas-powered car.
Right.
And this new venture between Geely and Renault, they've got a name that's almost too perfect. Horse!
Catchy, isn't it?
God, give them points for that.
But they're not horsing around with their ambitions. This venture, it's huge. 17 engine plants, 5 research and development centers, and hold on to your hats, 19,000 employees.
Wow.
Across 3 continents. And get this, they're aiming to pump out, wait for it, 5 million ICE, hybrid, and plug-in hybrid engines and transmissions per year.
5 million. That's like, I don't even know what to compare that
It's
to.
a lot of engines.
That's an understatement. And they're not just building all those for a single car company, right?
Nope. Their client list is already impressive as is. You've got the Renault Group, Geely Auto itself, obviously Volvo Cars, Proton, Nissan Mitsubishi Motors Company,
It's a who's who of the car world.
and P&CH Torino too. And they're open to adding even more names to that list.
So even with electric cars getting all the buzz, it seems like those traditional engines aren't going away anytime soon, especially with this level of global teamwork happening. But here's another story that really made me do a double take. Mercedes-Benz. We're talking luxury German engineering, right?
Yeah, top of the line.
They're going to use an engine made by Geely in their next generation CLA compact sedan.
It makes you wonder, is this a purely financial decision from Mercedes? Are they trying to cut costs? Or could it be something bigger, maybe a shift in how we see Chinese engineering?
Maybe Geely's now got something special that even a high-end brand like Mercedes wants a piece of.
It's a question worth pondering. Has Geely become a technological leader in the automotive world?
It really flips the script. Suddenly, the old hierarchy in the car world doesn't seem so clear-cut. And it makes you realize just how big China's influence might be.
Bigger than we thought, perhaps.
Possibly. And that leads us to the main event of today's deep dive. It's about China's overall strategy in the car world. It's not just about going all electric. It's way more interesting than that.
Right. One of our sources breaks it down really well. The evolution of internal combustion engines, ICE, and new energy vehicles, NEV, in China. This article, it shows that, China's leading the charge on electric vehicles. But hold on, they're also still making tons of those ICE vehicles.
So they're keeping one foot in both worlds.
Exactly. And they're actually dominating the global market for ICE vehicles, which is a big deal for their economy.
So they're pushing forward with EVs, but they're not giving up their stronghold on traditional engines just yet. Smart move, right? Having a backup plan.
Very strategic. But are they just trying to keep things the way they are? Or are they putting effort into making those traditional engines cleaner?
That's the million-dollar question.
It really shows you how much power they have, in the whole global car industry. Whatever China decides to do, it's going to have a ripple effect on manufacturers and suppliers, even the people buying cars everywhere.
Makes sense. Their choices with these engines, they impact everyone, not just China. And maybe this approach of not betting on just one horse, maybe that's good for everyone in the long run.
Yeah, one of the articles pointed that out. This 2-track strategy, they're calling it, could lead to like a more diverse and resilient supply chain for the whole car industry.
So instead of everyone relying on just one type of tech, we'd have options. different ways to power our cars, each with their own pros and cons.
Exactly.
I like that. It's not about winning or losing, it's about finding what works best in different situations. Speaking of what works, we talked about China trying to make traditional engines cleaner. What are they actually doing? Like specifics?
They're not just making small tweaks here and there. They're going all in on some pretty cutting-edge tech. One of the sources talks about these intelligent combustion injection systems. Just like your grandpa's fuel injection. They're using sensors and software.
Fancy.
Super fancy. It's all about controlling exactly how much fuel gets injected and when. The result, a much cleaner burn, more efficient.
So they're taking something old and giving it a high-tech brain.
You got it.
Yeah.
It's like a classic car with a supercomputer under the hood.
Love that analogy.
It shows how innovation isn't always about inventing something totally new. Sometimes it's about finding ways to dramatically improve what we already have.
And there's this other tech they're exploring that caught my attention. High-efficiency supercharging. I kind of get superchargers, but this sounds pretty intense.
Think of it this way. A regular supercharger. It's great for power, but it can be a bit of an energy hog. These new high-efficiency superchargers, they aim to deliver the same power boost, but without wasting as much energy. And it's really cool to see that even with electric cars getting all the hype, there's still so much innovation happening in the world of good old-fashioned engines. That's like a whole new chapter is being written, even as everyone's flipping the page to electric.
It makes you wonder what else they might come up with, right?
It reminds us to keep an open mind, not dismiss something just because it's older technology. Who knows what amazing breakthroughs are just around the corner?
I'm ready to be surprised. This whole deep dive has really opened my eyes to how important it is to look at things from different angles. And while China's doing some cool stuff with engines, we can't forget about the environmental impact of all this.
Absolutely. And that's where their investment in those NEVs, new energy vehicles, comes in. It's like they're recognizing that for the long haul, maybe electric or hybrid or even hydrogen, those are the way to go.
Smart move.
Right.
Yeah.
Covering all their bases. They're acknowledging that we don't know for sure which tech is going to win out in the end. So they're investing in a few different horses in the race.
That makes sense.
Makes them a potential leader no matter what the future looks like.
Clever. It's also got to have some perks for China itself, right? Less reliance on oil, cleaner air in their cities.
Absolutely. Plus, they're building up their own manufacturing base for these cutting-edge technologies. Wins all around for China.
So it's not just about being a global leader. It's about taking care of their own backyard, too. This is fascinating. It's like a chess match on a global scale.
That's a great way to put it. But there are still challenges ahead, right? Like they've got to build a whole network of charging stations for those electric cars.
Yeah.
Figure out how to source the materials for batteries responsibly.
Not to mention making enough of these new cars to keep up with demand.
Right, lots of hurdles to clear. And then there's the big question. Will people actually want these new technologies? Will they change their habits and make the switch?
Will they trade in their old gas guzzlers? That's a good question.
It's all about getting people on board with new ideas, new ways of doing things. That's where things like education and incentives come in. Making people aware of the benefits and giving them a little nudge to try something new.
Makes sense. So what's the bottom line here? What does the future hold for gas-powered cars, hybrids, electric cars? It's complicated, right? Lots of factors at play.
It's messy. But one thing's crystal clear. What China does is going to have a huge impact on everyone. The whole world's watching.
Big time.
This deep dive, it really shows us how everything's connected. Technology, the economy, how we treat the environment. It's bigger than just cars. It's about the choices we make every day and how those choices shape the future of our planet.
Powerful stuff. It reminds me that we all have a part to play in this. What we buy, the policies we support, just staying informed about what's happening in the world.
We can all contribute to a better future.
Absolutely.
And that's why these deep dives are so important. They don't just give us information. They make us curious. They make us ask questions. And they challenge us to really think about the world around us.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And with that, we're going to wrap up our look at China's interesting approach to those traditional car engines. Until next time, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep diving deep. We were just talking about how China's trying to clean up those traditional engines, right? Making them less polluting. It's a key part of their plan. But let's be real, any talk about these engines, it's got to include the environmental side of things.
No doubt about it. And one of their sources spells it out pretty clearly. The article called The Evolution of Internal Combustion Engines, ICE, and New Energy Vehicles, NEV, in China. It highlights just how many of these engines China's pumping out. Like, it's a lot.
Yeah.
Which means their efforts to clean them up, that's not just important for China, it's important for the whole planet.
It's a global issue, and they're not messing around. The China Internal Combustion Engine Association, they want to cut carbon emissions from these engines by 20% by 2035. Three-step plan. Ambitious.
Ambitious for sure. But they seem to be hitting it from all angles. We touched on that intelligent combustion thing and supercharging.
Yeah.
But they're also looking at biofuels, synthetic fuels, alternatives to gasoline.
Trying to find cleaner ways to power those engines.
Exactly.
But even with all that, some people are still like, can these engines ever really be sustainable? Especially with climate change being such a big deal.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
Right.
And that's why it's so interesting that China's also putting money into those NEVs. It's like a safety net. They're acknowledging that maybe for the really long-term electric hybrid hydrogen, those are the way to go.
Not putting all their eggs in one basket.
Exactly. Smart move when you think about it.
Yeah.
Because nobody knows for sure which technology is going to be the winner in the end.
Yeah.
So by investing in a few different options, China's setting themselves up to be a front runner no matter what happens.
It's a win-win. And let's not forget, it's got to have some benefits for China itself, right? Less reliance on fossil fuels, cleaner air for their cities.
Oh yeah, definitely. Plus they're building up their own industries to make this new technology. So many positives for China.
So it's not just about being a global player, it's about securing their own future, too. Pretty smart strategy, if you ask me.
Definitely. But remember, there are still some bumps in the road. They've got to build all those charging stations for electric cars, figure out how to get the materials for batteries ethically and sustainably.
Right. Make sure those batteries aren't doing more harm than good.
Exactly. And they have to ramp up production, make enough of these new vehicles to meet demand. Lots to figure out. And then the big question mark is, are people going to embrace these new technologies?
Will they be ready to trade in their old gas guzzlers?
Yeah, that's the key. Will they actually change their habits? It all
Yeah.
comes down to that. So education is huge. Incentives too. Letting people know about the benefits and giving them a little push to try something new.
Give it a shot.
Exactly. So where does all this leave us? What's the future of gas-powered cars? Hybrids. Electric cars. It's a bit of a tangled web.
Lots of threads.
Lots of threads. But one thing's for sure. Whatever China does, the whole world's going to feel it.
That's the truth. This deep dive, it's really shown me how everything's connected. Technology, the economy, the environment. It's bigger than just cars. It's about the choices we make and how they shape the future of our planet.
Couldn't agree more. It's a reminder that we all have a part to play in this. The choices we make as consumers, what we buy, the policies we support, even just staying informed and engaged. We all have a role in creating a more sustainable future. And that's what these deep dives are all about. Learning more, getting curious, asking tough questions, and really thinking critically about the world around us.
Well said. I think that's a perfect place to wrap up our exploration of China's fascinating approach to those traditional car engines. Thanks for joining us, everyone. Until next time, keep exploring, keep those questions coming, and keep diving deep.